2010. Lambton is my home group. That's where I took Alice. That's where I love to take people. I love to invite you into my home group. I'm going to meet you at the door. I'm going to take you around like an old family reunion. I love this meeting. I love welcome home. And that's what my home group is. And it's a place that raised me. I had a sponsor and she took me through the book and she took me through the steps and she gave me some guidelines and some pointers, but it was in my home group that I learned how to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I learned about service and how to serve my home group and how to be at the door and how to move a chair and to make sure that the meeting is available for the new man that walks in or woman that walks in and that they're welcome and that you're wanted, needed, and welcome in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the message, right? Thank you to this home group and or this group. I think you're a home group. I'm not, maybe you're not, but the service commitments within this home group, the way you guys show up every week to make sure that this is available around the world. Isn't that so cool? All around the world, this beautiful fellowship that we're in. I'm going to kind of shut the door because my pets are being fed. So it sometimes gets noisy out there. So I'm excited to be here. Step 11 is a big deal for me, right? They're all a big deal. But my experience with step 11 is initially was my avoidance of step 11, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the reason I picked those 11 step promises is because that was my problem. Sober. I'm sober, but I am, I'm excitable. I worry. I have anger. I burn energy foolishly. Like these were the things that were still plaguing me in sobriety. I have rage issues. I have impulsive problems. I make impulsive decisions and they're rash and they're harsh. And honestly, I came from such a perspective. I came from such a place that I viewed the world as hostile. I viewed it as unfriendly and unsafe. And so I had my dukes up. I was always in a defensive position. And while I was learning that in Alcoholics Anonymous, in my program and in my home group, you guys talked about love and tolerance and service to others and all those things. And it was lovely for 1 hour a day. It was great, you know, while we drank coffee and listened to a speaker and hugged each other goodbye. But what about the other 23 hours when you weren't there with me and my dukes are up and I'm out here in this world trying to apply these principles and try to live in this new place that you've introduced me to, but it just doesn't feel applicable. And I struggle with that, and I paid some consequences for that too. My reluctance to sit all the way down and step 11 cost me. I mean, literally, like cost me a job because I cuss out my boss and quit my job 2 years sober, impulsively, and I don't want to overplay it, but and I can, and like many of us, um, I can be scary. I have the ability to intimidation and bullying are kind of they were my default position when fearful. I got really big and really loud and I'm kind of cuckoo. So you don't know what I'm going to do. And I was still employing these tactics when in fear. Right. And I was afraid of so much that I had no idea I was afraid of it. And that's why each step builds on the first. My first four step, my fear said spiders and snakes. And I only put snakes because I figured my sponsor wanted more than one. That was my understanding of fear. And I made up snakes. I wasn't even afraid of them, but I thought that's what you meant. I had no idea when they said, honey, where are your fears? You're afraid. I thought, I'm not afraid of nothing. You got the wrong cowgirl here. I ain't scared of nothing. This was the bravado. This was the mask. This was those layers of dishonesty and fear that separated me from you. And I couldn't get to fears. I couldn't get, I mean, I remember reading the corrosive thread that runs through every fiber of I thought, "Bill, that's probably an exaggeration. Don't you think that's extreme?" Like, I could not I had such a blindness as far as introspection and self-knowledge and awareness that I honestly thought I wasn't afraid of anything. I thought that was all an exaggeration, but you stay sober, right? The longer I'm sober, the less I know. And these things I was so sure of in early sobriety, I start questioning it all. I start recognizing fears, that my behaviors are fear driven, that my decisions are fear driven, that every time I raise my voice or furrow my brow or lean into you or put up my dukes. There's a fear in there. That's a fear response. I started to look at my actions and started to recognize, but this did not happen overnight. This was not an overnight matter for me. So, just to qualify a little bit, I drank alcoholically from the beginning. I started my career in junior high. I drank as much as I could, as fast as I could, as often as I could. No one was mean to me. I was privileged. I had a loving mother and a stepfather and a baby sister. And, dinner was on the table every night at 6, and we prayed before meals, and we went to church on Sunday. I don't know why I couldn't receive love, but from early on, there was this thing. My dad had left, my mom and dad divorced when I was about 7 years old because my dad suffered alcoholism, and my mom knew to get me and my sister and get away from that because the train was coming, man. She got us off the tracks. And she did that to protect me and my sister and to, continue with her instincts for security and ambitions and love and relationships, because doing that with an alcoholic is difficult. And my mom said, "You know what? I ain't doing this. I'm gonna get my kids and I'm gonna give them a better life." Because my mom grew up in an alcoholic home. She saw the writing on the wall. She shifted gears. Thank God she did. I was saved a lot of trauma and problems and experiences with my father that I couldn't have ended well, right? Because of alcoholism. Um, but was so spiritually connected to my father. It was crazy. Like, it's a weird, soul connection that my father and I shared, a soul contract of some sort. We were just connected, and when he was gone, I felt that separation, and that separation spilled over into everything in my life, and alcohol seemed to connect me. It seemed to make it okay that I was with you and I was shoulder to shoulder with my peers, but only under the influence of alcohol. You remove the alcohol, and I immediately felt separated again. I immediately felt different than, less than, better than, whatever judgment or comparison my ego was trying to make. It was separation. But the booze, man, we're all at a campfire, we're passing the bottle, we're smoking Marlboro Lights, we're connected. And I crave that. We crave that connection. And so I would seek that out. And then progressive and fatal. There were consequences to my drinking from the beginning, but I was always willing to pay the price of the drink. I was always, I was always willing to pay the price of the drink. If the drink meant lost friendships, I'll get new friends. If the drink meant lost boyfriends are, replaceable, like, disposable razors, get another one of them, right? If it meant my interest and hobbies that used to be running and sports and music, if those are going to go by the wayside so I can drink, this is my new hobby, and on and on and on. But the price of the drink as I progressed through life got steeper and steeper and steeper because I had kids along the way. Yeah. Born to alcoholic mother, a bedeviled woman with little control of her emotional nature. How am I going to address that? And I'm drinking and I'm drinking and I'm drinking. By the time I got to, you had a brief period of sobriety in my mid 20s. I didn't work the steps. I didn't read the literature. I had fellowship sobriety. The fellowship is a beautiful and amazing thing. And I was young enough, right? Like our literature says, young people can quit, right? They just don't usually want to. I quit without much trouble at 25. I hung out with you. I drank your coffee. I ate your cookies. I held your hand. We said your prayers. I didn't drink. Magic, right? And then I faded out of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had this fellowship based sobriety, and I removed myself from the fellowship. I'm hit. I'm a sitting duck because I don't know what I got. I don't understand the fatal malady in which I suffer. I don't understand the progression. I don't understand what's going on. I think I just don't drink anymore. I'll never drink again because drinking didn't work out good. And I don't need to go to AA anymore because I'm too busy being a mom. And moms get drunk too. Yeah. And a few years I decide, like page 30, hadn't read it, right? How I was going to control and enjoy. I'm 5 years without a drink. Surely I can drink again, right? The man at 30, right? I am all in this text. I am all over this book. I love when Teresa talks about this is an invitation. It is an invitation to examine your relationship with alcohol. Where are you in this? And that's, I'm showing up, man. But I'm going to go through a lot more misery before I land in your lap. I'm going to go through a lot more misery. I'm going to abandon my children. I'm going to take to the streets. I'm going to do outside substances. I'm going to prostitute myself. I'm going to become dangerously antisocial. I'm going to become subhuman. An alcoholic in his cup is an unlovely creature. And I am going to morph into all of that before I fall into your lap. March 6, 2010, my dad picked me up off a street corner, took me to a homeless shelter, and said, please let those ladies help you. You're going to die. It was the pleading of a father. My father had 20 years sobriety then, sitting in these rooms watching his daughter die. Yeah. And lots of us have that experience, right? Because of this thing and how it runs through our families. And when my dad knew to bring me to you, and he dropped me off at that homeless shelter, and something happened. This is where the magic starts. I don't know it's magic. I don't know it's God. I don't know it's spirit. I just know something is different, right? I don't even have the language for it or the awareness of it, but I stayed. I laid down and stayed. And 24 hours later, I had 24 hours of sobriety. And then 7 days later, I had a week of sobriety. I stuck around there, and suddenly I had 30 days of sobriety. Now, I haven't worked a step. I had just gotten a sponsor. We hadn't got into the book. But here I am with that red chip, right? I'm walking in grace. I am walking under the grace of something that has shifted and occurred in me through all your prayers. I really believe in the moment of silence where we pray for the still suffering. I think it worked. Because there I was at the end of March going into April with a 30-day chip. And that's a miracle. Something had occurred. So I'm in this umbrella of grace. I'm in this bubble of protection where I've got a few days and I'm getting hope. And then it was time to keep it. Now I gotta work on clearing out that channel, right? I gotta start doing this step work. And I went at it, man. I'm a real alcoholic, man. We go foot to pavement. We're headstrong and determined, and we never, I'm built for full measure and then add 10. Like new hobbies, whatever I'm into, I'm obsessive. And I got obsessive about this literature and this program and these steps. And it was like I had spent my 39 years wishing I had the manual to life, right? Everybody got an instruction manual, and suddenly they hand me the instructions. This is the book. Here are your instructions, crazy lady, right? And I'm a mess, right? So I was grossly underweight. I was malnourished. I was missing teeth. My hair was falling out. Like I twitched. I had a little Yeah, and I would just randomly do that. I mean, I couldn't sit still. I would jump around. I was spastic in my movement, right? And I'm running around Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor said you got to shake hands with at least 5 women when you go in a meeting. And I would go around the room and introduce myself to everybody. Hey, Amy Spain, Amy Spain, alcoholic, Amy Spain, alcoholic, because I wanted to be part of you. I wanted to be in your mix. I wanted to sit next to you. We had an old timer in Louisville. Her name was Miss Amber, and about 3 months in of me doing this, she finally looked at me. She said, I know who you are. and and I thought, oh, Miss Amber knows who I am, because I needed to be familiar to you, and I needed to know you, and I needed us to know each other. I needed that fellowship and that connection with you. And I didn't sit on the outside of AA. I knew to be in the middle. And so shaking hands and sitting up front and trying to read and showing up early and staying late, that's how I got to be in with you. I wanted to be in with you. And I didn't wait for an invitation. I wasn't the person that sat in the back of the room with my arms crossed. None of that, man. I wanted to be in with you. My life was on the line. And I was out of options. And I felt this sense of urgency, this desperation that this had to work. If this didn't work, it had to work. It had to work. It was my last hope. That flimsy reed, this has to work. And I came at it with this gift of desperation, this drive to be in with you and read your literature and do your work and move your chairs and participate. And I needed you. I needed to be in with this. This had to work, lest I die. And my sponsor took me through the steps, right? And I got done with the steps and I was like, awesome. I'm ready to go, man. I got out there and I got busy helping women. So what am I doing? I help women. But remember, I'm avoiding step 11. See, if you ask me, Amy, do you meditate? I'm going to go, absolutely. Oh yeah, I meditate. That was a lie. I couldn't grapple with it. The pace at which my brain ran. It was just an exhausting, constant place of chatter and noise and thoughts and pictures and this hyper vigilance that I that and I it didn't stop. It didn't stop. It didn't stop. It was so loud and it didn't stop. And the only way I knew to escape it was through action. So moving a chair, taking, sponsoring women, doing all that, working. I stayed in perpetual motion. I couldn't, there was no stillness. Stillness was uncomfortable. I couldn't exist in the stillness. So I went to all the meetings and I moved all the chairs and I sponsored all the women and I ran and I ran and I ran. And I worked and I worked and I worked and I saw my kids. And all of a sudden we get sober and opportunity comes, right? And we're busy. You can get really busy. And I was busy and service and sponsorship and meetings and my own recovery and my marriage and my kids and my mom and my dad. And I just stayed in emotion, emotion, emotion until I would hit a wall and collapse, burning energy foolishly, exhausted. I would pray. I didn't meditate. I didn't know what meditation was. I would lie to you and say, "Oh yeah, I meditate while I'm doing the dishes." You know? Or, yeah, I meditate in my car on my way to work. I always try to like pair it with something because I didn't know how to meditate. I didn't know what that meant, and I wouldn't ask you. I decide. My brain is crazy. It decides things that aren't true, and I decided that meditation was some type of Buddhist prayer position where I levitated, slightly above the ground. And if I couldn't do that, I couldn't meditate. So why play around in meditation? Uh, year five, I kicked in my neighbor's door and I threatened to kill everyone there. And I meant that because I'm in a rage and I'm in a fear state. And this isn't the first time. This is just that time. Because I'm unpredictable. I'm like a bomb about to go off at any given moment, right? And I called my sponsor and I said, When will I stop doing this? Because the shame, right? I used to have justified anger, but 5 years in, it's hard to justify these kind of bizarre and violent behaviors, and there's a shame, there's a God conscious that has developed, and I'm feeling like, "Ugh, why do I do this? Why can't I control this? What's wrong with me?" And I called my sponsor and I said, "When am I gonna quit doing this?" She said, "When you work all the steps, honey." You know how sponsors are. And I was like, "What do you mean work all the steps? I take women through the steps. I swear, blah, 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 blah." And she said the second half of 11, and she had my number. She called me out. And so at year 5, because of the volatile nature, I'm still bedeviled. Little control of my emotional nature. That's one of our bedevilments on page 52. It's showing up in sobriety. This burning energy foolishly, this anger, this worry, this fear. I'm still plagued, by these things in my life. And she said, when you work all the steps, you'll get relief of that. And on 88, here's the promises, right? So this is what I'm dealing with. And it says we are in much less danger. Doesn't mean they're not going to happen, but I have reduced the chances. I have reduced the odds. I have created a pause. Pause when agitated or doubtful. I can't pause. I go from 0 to let's fight like in point one. You don't even know what's happened, and I'm hitting you. You're like, crap. When did we get here? As I go there, I have no pause. I overshoot the pause. I can't be in pause. But here is this promise that I'm going to be in less danger of excitement, less danger of fear, less danger of anger, less danger of worry, self pity. What about this? Foolish decision. That's those impulsive decisions. That's those poor behaviors fueled by the worry, the fear, and the anxiety. We do not tire so easily. If you looked at my schedule or any member of Alcoholics Anonymous, not just me, Rachel, Ollie, Olive, Teresa, a normal person would go, there's no way you get all this done and you're all these places and all this stuff happens. Let me tell you something. Spirit bends time. Spirit bends time. And my calendar would exhaust somebody. It should exhaust me. But suddenly, I'm not burning energy foolishly. I'm on assignment. And I've connected with my creator and I'm on assignment. And so he gives me what I need when I perform his work, when I stay close to him and perform his work well. I don't tire so easily. I have the energy. I have the time. There's this bending of time, this shifting of time and space that just makes possible when I'm on assignment. How do I get there? And step 11. Now, am I a great meditator? No. No, I'm probably not. Uh, probably not at all. Is there a focused, disciplined attempt at meditation daily? Yes. Do I carve out 30 minutes every night? I like to meditate at night. My friend Rachel meditates in the morning. I like nighttime meditation. Is there this place in my evening for 30 minutes where I review my day and I ding the bell, right? I like the gong. I like the bells. I like the sound and it vibrates through me. I've learned what I like and where I can sit in my breath. It was through trial and error. It was trying things out. It was practice. It was exploration. It's this invitation to explore. And there's so many writings and so many teachings and so many options for us. It's endless. Bill Cleveland talks about it's not the treasure, it's the treasure map. And I really believe it's in step 11 where we kind of can just move out into these spaces wherever your spirit, your creator, your higher power leads you. And I love that in this connection with other people. It's fascinating. It's exciting. It doesn't end. There's no boredom in it. And I love these things. I went to a Buddhist temple down the street to learn how they offered a free meditation on Friday nights. So I gathered up all my sponsees. Hey, we're going to learn to meditate with the monks. Everybody, we're meeting at the Buddhist temple. It's Fridays at 7. We're going to expand on our spiritual life. And there's these beautiful Vietnamese monks. They speak very little English, and they volunteer their time to offer courses in meditation, and it's a breathing exercise. And I share my embarrassment. So I've been studying, I've been on YouTube, I've been reading books, I'm getting into meditation. And we're sitting there, and the monk says, we're going to count our breaths. Everybody just breathe and keep count. In, out, 1, in, out, 2, in, out, 3. That's all we're doing. We're just going to count our breaths. We're going to do it for a minute. Afterwards, say your number. And it's quiet. Everyone's breathing. And I am doing this deep breath in, hold, 2, 3, breathing out, 4, 5, breathing in. I'm doing this big, deep that I saw on YouTube or wherever I picked it up. And the monk goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm breathing. He said, Buddhists don't do that. I said, what do you do? He said, we just go, oh, look, I'm breathing. So I will overcomplicate anything. You see how I put a whole bunch in there that didn't belong? Just being in my breath. That's it. It can just be that. But the ability to laugh at myself, the ability to explore these things, the ability to have these conversations about spirit and how spirit moves and how spirit speaks to each of us. Man, what a trip, right? What without it, it's joyful and it's fun. And let me tell you, 10 years ago, I made a commitment to doing all the steps, all of them, even the second half of 11. And I believe that I have changed on a cellular level. I'm not the same person. I do not respond to life the same. Mostly, I feel love and connection most every day with all living things around me, and everything's living, but and it's brought me a sense of peace and joy, and I have much better control. It's not, I have lost my temper. I've done in those 10 years, but never, one time with some grief around my father, I was violent towards another human being, but I was able to reset that and revisit that and make that amends and look at what was going on there. And but hey, my kids said they were going to get me a shirt that says I could be meaner. So I always say I don't know if I'm nice, but I'm a lot nicer than I used to be. And my dad always say, you don't compare yourself to anybody in Alcoholics Anonymous. You compare you to the person who walked in the day before your sobriety date. And if you are better than that guy, if you've grown, if you're closer, then this thing's working and you should stick around. And so for me, I think that's true. That dangerously antisocial, broken woman that was existed on March 5th, 2010 is not the woman that's here with you tonight. So this thing's working and I'm going to stick around. Thank you guys for letting me share.
What an amazing opportunity we have to ask Amy questions, to, as Teresa says, squeeze more out of the speaker. Victor, come on in. You're still muted, my friend.
Not now. How do you do it? Like, I loved in particular when you said that, the spirit moves time and space, and you are a exemplar of that for sure. And do I have a question? Yeah, I do. Have you loved yourself enough yet? Do you think? It's not meant in any negativity. It's a positive, totally positive.
I thank you for that question, Victor, because that is always the question, right? That's the thing. Um, I am I I am working on that. I think we work on that, and there's some days that are better than other days, but accepting my whole being and my whole story and my whole experience lovingly is a process. I do know as in my meditation practice, and I learned so much from my friend Rachel because spirit always positions and prepares us, right? So when I was being forced into meditation for survival and to not be charged with terroristic threatening, because there's the law gets involved when you're violent. Rachel, I was sponsoring her, but she like meditation just kind of came naturally for her. And so God had already planned that and brought us together. And so she taught me and introduced me to meditation ideas. But when you get into meditation and you get into that connective, so if there is a God in me, right? Deep down in every man, woman, and child, if there is God in me, and God is perfect love, then that means that within me exists perfect love. And learning to sit in that, is a practice. But thank you for that question, Victor. Very insightful. Yeah.
Thank you, Amy, for a beautiful answer. Linda, you are up next. Please come in.
Thank you, Alice, and thanks everybody for being here. Amy, Linda, recovered alcoholic. Amy, thank you. Oh, where'd you go? I've got to find you. You moved. I know you didn't move, but you moved on the screen. Oh, you said so much, and a couple things when you said your reluctance to sit all the way down in step 11. And I thought of that with my own experience and how when God brought me back to Alcoholics Anonymous, 26 years ago, how I knew with the desperation I had to work these, I had to. It was the only solution. But what I also realized in these last years is my reluctance to sit down. And I've just not heard it referred to as that all the way down in step 11. That has changed over the last couple of years. But so my question is, and I'm not sure of how to pose it, but when you said I couldn't receive love, and that's one of the things I've experienced. I can be loving, I can be kind, then I'm bedeviled because I end up resentful. But just receiving love and believing that I am that beloved child of God, which probably 3 years ago I couldn't say. How to receive that love, how that has come with you, how to begin to receive it, and you experiencing the receiving of it, which is so beautiful. And I could see it in you, but just, did that make any sense for a question? If not, thank you so much. You're beautiful.
Absolutely. So, when we're looking at your nightly review, even in your nightly review on step 11, right? When we retire at night, it is talking to us there about avoiding the morbid reflection, the self-pity, right? So that's where I go when I'm in this self-loathing. But isn't that still self-obsession? Isn't that still whether it's self-pity or self-loathing or so we're working on that when we retire at night, which is that first part of the step 11 thing, in this self-forgiveness that we're talking about. And then what Victor mentioned, right? When I recognize when I can love me, right, then I can receive your love. So I always say that one of the greatest gifts of Alcoholics Anonymous was not only my ability to love, but my ability to be loved, to trust that I am worthy of that. I deserve that. I am connected in this beautiful space and time with perfect love and existence. And kind of moving to a place of watcher to kind of move beyond the racing thoughts and the ego and the judgments and the place where self exists into a place behind that where I am the watcher, and that is who I truly am, right? I'm this spiritual being draped in a meat suit, having this human experience on this journey, but identifying with spirit, the spirit self, kind of moves me, my true identity, right? These are all things and circumstances and events and decisions, but at my core, inside every.
Oh, you muted yourself, Amy.
That was Luna, my precious kitty. She said, we're done. Mute. I hope that helped, Linda. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. I want to just let you know, Amy, there's a lot of love for you in the chat. Lucky
Yes, thank
Lorraine,
you.
you are up.
Thank you, Alice. I am Lorraine. I'm alcoholic, and you know, Amy, you are absolutely radiantly glowing. I remember the first time I heard you speak 3 years ago when I was brand new sober in the rooms, and I have to say I've seen a change in you in 3 years, a positive, beautiful beauty change about you, and I realized that I've been saying to sponsees this week, you are a beautiful, innocent, perfect child of God, and believing it about myself. And I'm realizing it sitting here in this room with these women that I so admire who have helped me. But anyway, my question is, so what do you say to a brand new girl who is so caught up in anger and blame that she's like freaking out at everything and everybody and wants to like hurry up and get sober? Like how, I know what I say to her and what I'm led to say. What do you say?
Um, well, what I typically do is, uh, I don't waste time on the steps. I do not waste time on step work. I think that we have to stop the bleeding. These women come in damaged and bleeding from open wounds. And as a nurse, I know that you got to stop the bleeding. And so I try to get them through the steps, so the bleeding stops. I also talk to them about change behaviors, right? So one of the first things I had to do in recovery was change my behaviors. I had to change how I was talking to people. I had to change for me, I had to change how I was dressing. I had to change my language. I had to change a lot of things. And I know, what links are you willing to go to overcome, to achieve sobriety? But I get them in the steps because I think spirit's going to do the work and soften the edges as I move through the work. And also, like early in the beginning, you'll get tired of those amends. You'll change that behavior if I have to keep going making amends for my smart mouth or whatever I'm doing. And so just really kind of holding their feet to the fire as far as the literature, the prayer, performing the steps, get through that, and then get them in service to other women. Because when I am helping you, my self-worth goes up, my staying power in Alcoholics Anonymous goes up, my connection with God, because God often wears skin, that's going to go up. I'm going to start seeing the miracles. Even if I'm missing them in me, I'm going to start recognizing them in the women I'm helping and in the service positions I'm holding. And so just really that full, Ralph White always says, come all the way in and sit all the way down. Just a baptism in Alcoholics Anonymous, service, unity, and recovery, and get that bleeding stopped and get them busy.
Thank you. Emily, we're so glad you're here. Emily, come on in.
Hi, Amy. So I got a question for you on something that you were talking about. You were talking about how your mother removed you from how'd you say it? The train wreck that was heading, from when you were a kid. And you were able to remove that drink eventually in that separation. But without it, how did you learn to deal with the love for yourself and the love for others to be able to cope with that?
Well, early on, so as a child, I found booze. And booze helped me cope with all the bad feelings and all the feelings of separation and all the fears. Booze was the Band-Aid. Booze is what worked until it turned on me, till it stopped working. And now the toxic relationship is with alcohol. I'm in a toxic relationship, thing's whooping my butt. And I keep crawling back to it. It's making me feel worthless. It's abuse on every level, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical. Like, this stuff is just taken me on a run, and I keep going back to it. I have to break up with the toxic relationship that I'm in with booze. And then once I do that, just like any toxic relation, I began a healing process. How to be healed and restored from the, what I've endured, what's happened in that. I sponsor Emily, guys. I said it before the meeting. She's in her step 9 work. We just went through 10 and 11 this afternoon. And Emma, how much time do you have now? How many days? I think you're muted. I can read it. I know what she's got.
I stay here until the 7th on Monday.
But how many days sobriety do you have?
Me, 131 days today.
And she's in step 11. Like, this is how fast I move women through the steps. We're going to stop the bleeding. We're going to get this work done. You're going to start helping others. And in step 10, right, I'm going to grow in effectiveness and understanding. So I've stopped the bleeding. The changes happen. She's moving through her amends. We're going into 10, 11. And we're going to grow in effectiveness and understanding as we go. And she's got 131 days. I was dying. I couldn't play around with this. And I sponsor a lot of women who also come in bleeding. And we need to stop the bleeding and get them in there. I love you, Emily. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Amy. Marilyn, you're unmuted, right? Come on in.
Thank you, Alice. My name is Marilyn. I am an alcoholic, and it's good to see you again, Amy. We just hung out
Hi.
Thursday at Ralph's meeting on step
Yeah.
3. And now here you are for step 11, and I was so excited when I saw you this evening. And I really appreciate you going to that piece of step 11 where we talk about we're in much less danger of the excitement, fear, or self-pity. And my biggest thing was the foolish decisions. That's what my question is going to be. Because I always made these foolish decisions. So when I saw that as part of step 11, I hung on to that. So how do you see in your decision-making process, or is it just a part of your flow, because you asked God to direct your thinking, but in your decision-making process, do you pause?
Now I do. I didn't always, but now I pause. And the other thing I do is I seek counsel. I was never wise enough to seek counsel. I always made the decision up here where the insanity lives. I would decide things based on assumptions, judgments, fears, because this is the things that motivate me, right? My instincts, selfishness, my security, my finance, my romance. And now I go in prayer and meditation, but I also seek counsel. I know to our book says we talk to each other and reason things out, right? I now know part of wisdom is knowing that I don't know. Part of humility is knowing I don't know. Part of that growth is knowing Alice might have an answer to this. I'm going to seek counsel. I'm going to call Candace. I'm going to talk to Ralph. I'm going to reach out to Teresa. I'm going to call my sponsor, my support group. Like, I seek counsel now. The ego doesn't say, now I know that sometimes that's the wisest thing I can do. I pray and meditate. I pause. I wait for the right answer to come. I thought I move like this, and I thought decisions had to be made right now. Do you know what? They don't. Things can wait. I had no idea. I thought everything had to happen right now, and you had to have an answer, and that's not true. You can say to someone, I don't know, and I'm going to have to get back to you. Can we put a pin in that? Can we circle back? You can do that. I didn't know you could do that. And I use that stuff all the time. Stuff can wait. I don't have to decide right now, and the freedom to be able to have that room to take up that space and say, I'm going to circle back to this. I need to pray. I need to talk to some folks, whatever. And that sense of urgency has been reduced through meditation.
Thank you. Andrew, come on in. Thank you for the gender diversity.
Good evening, beautiful souls. All thank you, Fellowship of the Spirit. Thank you so much. Alice, thank you for bringing in Amy Spain. I've never heard you before, Amy. Meditation did not come easy.
No.
There were several. I didn't do the candles. I just kept following the literature. It was pointed out to me by grant sponsor. So I'd read, bits of 85 all the way to 88 slowly every day. And the slower and slower I read them, I started to calm my mind.
Hmm.
And I noticed you gave reference to part of step 3 there, where we're not uh, we're not directing our thinking, not just the life out there,
Yeah.
here. And I knew when I came into these rooms here, I thought, oh my God, I didn't know I had a problem with alcohol. I still wasn't convinced. What I had a problem with is every time I made a decision, I got drunk. And that was my problem. And so I knew it was upstairs. So my question is, I like that you chose this, and it's right after that humbly saying many times, "Thy will be done." I'm no longer running my life, and I've had to use that years ago when I was just I don't know what's going on. So I noticed they list excitement first,
Yeah.
and that to me, I glommed onto that right away because as soon as I'm excited, I can't think. Period. And so, can I ask you about a little bit more? I know you've talked a lot about it. Where has excitement really kind of ruined your thought life?
Well, that not being able to be clear-headed or calm, I react to life. This is my MO. I'm a reactor, and, my sponsor was trying to teach me that we respond to life. We don't have to react to life. So in reaction is where that excitement comes from. The sky is falling, henny penny, or and
Mhm.
oh God, we got to do this, and we got this rush sense of urgency that is made up. It's not real. So excitement for me is this reaction instead of a thoughtful response, and learning to move from this impulsiveness into a calm state of reason to where I can respond to life as it's unfolding instead of reacting in a hyper active, excited fear state, which is kind of what was my MO prior.
Thank you for the question, and thank you so much for the answer, Amy. We are out of time. It's been a joy to have you. I love you so much. Back to you, John.